Captain Ji-ho Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha. The hot liquid splashed across his uniform as he jumped up from his chair and ran to the main console. The red lights were flashing everywhere, and the communication officers were shouting over each other, trying to understand what was happening. "Sir, we are getting distress signals from Kepler Colony," Lieutenant Yuna said with panic in her voice. Her hands were shaking as she tried to adjust the communication equipment. "The signal is breaking up, but it sounds like they are under attack." Ji-ho felt his stomach drop. Kepler Colony was home to almost 50,000 people, mostly miners, and their families who had been working the asteroid fields for the past 10 years. It was supposed to be one of the safest places in human space, far away from any known alien territories. "Put it on the main screen," Ji-ho ordered. The large display showed static and broken images. Through the interference, they could see flashes of bright light and what looked like explosions. The sound that came through was terrible, people screaming and the roar of something burning. "This is Colony Administrator Minho calling any Earth forces," a desperate voice crackled through the speakers. "We are under attack by unknown ships. They appeared out of nowhere and started bombing our settlements. The miners' quarters are gone. The main processing plant is destroyed. They are using some kind of plasma weapons that turn everything to glass. Please send help immediately." The transmission cut to static. Ji-ho stared at the screen, his mind racing. In all his 20 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. There had been rumors of strange ships spotted in the outer systems, but nothing that suggested an organized attack. "Try to re-establish contact," he told Yuna, "and get me Admiral Suman Park on priority channel." While they worked to reach the Admiral, Ji-ho studied the last images they had received from Kepler Colony. The attack ships were unlike anything in the human database. They were sleek and silver, shaped like teardrops with energy weapons that glowed blue-white. The destruction they caused was massive. Entire city blocks were simply gone, turned into craters of melted rock and metal. Admiral Suman Park appeared on the communication screen within minutes. She was a tough woman in her 50s who had commanded the outer defense fleets for the past decade. Her face was serious as she listened to Ji-ho's report. "How many ships did they use?" she asked. "The colonists reported at least 6 attack vessels, Admiral. But the sensor data is incomplete because their communications array was hit early in the attack." Suman nodded grimly. "I am mobilizing the 3rd Fleet immediately. We should reach Kepler Colony in 18 hours. She paused and looked directly at Ji-ho. "Captain, I need you to monitor all outer colonies and prepare for the possibility that this is not an isolated attack." As if her words were prophetic, the communication board lit up with new emergency signals. Colony after colony reported the same thing: strange ships appearing without warning and unleashing devastating attacks. New Seoul Mining Station, Busan Agricultural Platform, Daegu Research Outpost, all of them calling for help as plasma fire rained down from space. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee arrived at the command center an hour later. He was the head of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative and one of the smartest people Ji-ho had ever met. Despite the chaos around them, Dr. Lee seemed calm as he studied the incoming reports. "These attacks are coordinated," he said quietly. "Look at the timing. All of them happened within a 4-hour window across multiple star systems. That requires precise planning and advanced faster-than-light communication." "Who would do this?" Ji-ho asked. "We have trade agreements with most known alien species. We have never been aggressive toward anyone." Dr. Lee pulled up a star map on his portable computer. "That might be exactly the problem. To some alien civilizations, our rapid expansion might look threatening. We have established colonies in 47 systems in just the past 50 years. That is faster growth than most species achieve in centuries." Before Ji-ho could respond, a new signal came through the main communication array. This time it was not a distress call. The voice was artificial, translated by computer from an alien language. "Attention, primitive species of the 3rd planet," the voice announced with mechanical precision. "You have been judged guilty of unauthorized expansion into territories claimed by the Helix Dominion. Your recent aggressive colonization activities threaten the established order of this galactic region." The entire command center fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen to the alien message. "We have demonstrated our capability to end your expansion by destroying several of your settlements. This was a minor action intended to gain your attention. You now have exactly 72 Earth hours to respond to our demands. The list of demands was long and humiliating. All human colonies beyond the Sol system were to be abandoned immediately. Earth would accept status as a vassal world under Helix Dominion protection. All human military vessels were to be surrendered for destruction. Human trade would be limited to basic resources in exchange for permission to continue existing. If you refuse these reasonable terms, the voice continued, we will demonstrate what a real attack looks like. Your species will be removed from space permanently. You have 72 hours to transmit your acceptance. Do not test our patience. The message ended. The command center remained quiet for several long seconds before everyone started talking at once. Jiho felt anger building in his chest as he thought about the families who had died in those colonies, people who had done nothing wrong except try to build new lives among the stars. Reasonable terms, Dr. Lee said with disgust. They bomb our civilians and call their demands reasonable. Admiral Park's face appeared on the screen again. She had obviously received the same message. I am calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. All fleet commanders are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Admiral, Jiho said carefully, what are our chances if we fight them? Suman was quiet for a moment before answering. Based on what we have seen, their technology is more advanced than ours. Their plasma weapons can destroy our shields in seconds. Their ships are faster and more maneuverable. She paused and looked directly at him. But they made one big mistake. What mistake? They gave us 72 hours to think about it. Doctor, Lee was already working on his computer, pulling up files and running calculations. I need to analyze the weapon signatures from the attacks. If we can understand how their technology works, maybe we can find weaknesses. As the hours passed, more reports came in from the attack sites. The destruction was total where the plasma weapons had hit. But some colonists had survived by hiding in underground shelters or being away from the main settlements when the attacks began. These survivors provided crucial information about the alien ships and weapons. Lieutenant Mina Choi had been leading a survey mission in deep space when her home colony was attacked. She managed to observe the alien fleet from a distance as they left the system. Her recordings showed that the alien ships had a specific formation pattern and seemed to follow rigid tactical procedures. They fight like machines, she reported to Admiral Park. Very precise, very organized, but also very predictable. They destroy the biggest targets first, then work their way down to smaller ones. They did not even scan for survivors or hidden installations. Dr. Lee found this information. Very interesting. That suggests they view this as a simple extermination mission, not a military conquest. They are not trying to capture our technology or learn about our capabilities. They just want us gone. As the 72-hour deadline approached, something began happening across human space that the aliens had not expected. Instead of panic and desperate preparation for surrender, there was anger, cold, focused anger that spread from colony to colony and ship to ship. The families of the dead colonists were not crying for mercy. They were demanding revenge. The surviving colonists were not fleeing. They were digging in and preparing to fight. Every human settlement began mobilizing for war, and Earth's leaders realized they had a choice to make. They could surrender and hope the aliens would honor their promises, or they could show these Helix Dominion creatures what happened. When someone bombed human civilians and then demanded submission, the vote was not even close. The news of the alien attacks spread across human space faster than any official communication could travel. Social networks, private channels, and even old radio transmissions carried the story from world to world. What the Helix Dominion expected to see was panic and quick surrender from a primitive species. What actually happened was something they had never encountered before in their long history of conquering weaker civilizations. Lieutenant Mina Choi sat in her small scout ship, watching the alien fleet through her long-range sensors. She had been ordered to maintain distance and gather intelligence, but every instinct told her to attack the ships that had murdered her friends and neighbors. The aliens were moving slowly through the asteroid field, where New Sol mining station used to be, scanning the debris with methodical precision. They are cataloging the destruction, she reported back to Admiral Park, taking measurements and recordings like scientists studying an experiment. They do not seem to consider us a real threat. Through her sensors, Mina could see the alien ships more clearly than anyone had before. They were beautiful in a cold way, with smooth hulls that reflected starlight like mirrors. The plasma weapons were mounted in rotating turrets that could fire in any direction. But as she watched them work, she noticed something important. Admiral, their weapons need almost 30 seconds to charge between shots, and their shields flicker in a regular pattern every few minutes. It looks like they have to cycle power between different systems. This information was exactly what Dr. Hyun-Woo Lee needed. Back on Earth, he was working with teams of engineers and physicists to understand the alien technology. The weapon signatures from the attacks showed that the plasma cannons operated on specific frequency ranges. The shield patterns that Mina observed suggested the aliens used a rotating modulation system to protect against different types of attacks. If their shields rotate frequencies every few minutes, Dr. Lee explained to the gathered military leaders, then we can time our attacks to hit them when their shields are weak against our weapon types. And if their guns need 30 seconds to recharge, our fighters could get close enough to cause serious damage. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Commander Taewon Yu was coordinating with survivor groups on the attacked colonies when he received a message that changed everything. A group of miners trapped underground during the attack had managed to recover pieces of alien technology from a damaged ship. The aliens landed repair crews after the bombing, reported survivor team leader Ki-won Nam. One of their small ships had engine trouble and crashed near the old water processing plant. We managed to get to it before they could recover everything. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had seen before, but it was not magical. Dr. Lee's team found that it operated on principles that human science understood, just applied in ways that were much more advanced. The plasma weapons used magnetic field manipulation to contain superheated gas. The shields worked by creating interference patterns in electromagnetic radiation. The important thing, Dr. Lee told Admiral Park, is that their technology follows rules, and if it follows rules, we can learn those rules and use them against them. Meanwhile, something else was happening across human colonies that the aliens had not predicted. Instead of abandoning their settlements and fleeing toward Earth, humans were adapting. Colony after colony reported the same pattern, survivors emerging from shelters and immediately beginning to rebuild. But this time with defense in mind. Yoonji Nam, a civilian engineer working on the Mars terraforming project, sent a proposal to Earth Defense Command that made Admiral Park smile for the first time since the attacks began. Yoonji had been studying the asteroid mining operations and realized that humans had been building the perfect weapons for space combat without even knowing it. Every asteroid processing facility is basically a mass driver, Yoonji explained in her video message. We use magnetic fields to move millions of tons of rock every day. If we modify the acceleration systems, we can launch projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens have shields that can stop energy weapons, but a chunk of iron moving at 10% of light speed will go through their shields like they are not even there. The idea spread quickly. Mining operations throughout human space began, converting their equipment into kinetic weapons. Cargo haulers were modified to carry projectile loads instead of trade goods. Even passenger ships were retrofitted with magnetic launch systems that could fire dense metal slugs with devastating accuracy. Dr. Sunho Kang, working at the Quantum Research Facility on Europa, made another crucial discovery. While examining the alien communication intercepts, he realized that the Helix Dominion used a form of faster-than-light communication that created detectable ripples in space-time. This meant that human scientists could track their messages and potentially intercept them. If we can read their communications, Dr. Kang explained to the Defense Council, we can predict their movements and coordinate our own attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kang's team successfully decoded part of an alien message. The Helix Dominion was not just one species, but a coalition of different alien races working together. More importantly, they were discussing their confusion about human reactions to the attacks. The intercepted message revealed that the aliens had expected immediate surrender after their demonstration. In their experience, primitive species always submitted when faced with superior firepower. The fact that humans were mobilizing for war instead of begging for mercy was causing serious concern among their military leaders. Captain Yuna Han received her orders 3 days before the 72-hour deadline expired. She was to lead a squadron of modified cargo ships on what appeared to be a desperate evacuation mission from the outer colonies. The ships would be loaded with civilian refugees and would broadcast distress signals as they fled toward Earth. "The aliens will intercept us," Admiral Park explained. "They will see what looks like a panicked evacuation and will move to destroy us before we can reach safety. But what they will not know is that every refugee ship is actually a weapon." The plan was simple, but required incredible courage from the volunteer crews. Each ship would be packed with high explosives and guided by skeleton crews who understood they were not expected to survive. When the alien fleet moved to intercept the fleeing refugees, the ships would detonate simultaneously, hopefully taking some of the enemy vessels with them. But this was only the distraction. The real attack was being prepared by teams working around the clock in secret facilities throughout the solar system. Every asteroid mining operation had been converted to weapons manufacturing. Every research station was now producing military equipment. Every human settlement had become a fortress preparing for war. The aliens had made their biggest mistake by giving humans time to prepare. In 72 hours, human engineering and determination had created weapons and tactics that the Helix Dominion could not have imagined. The species they thought was primitive had just demonstrated the ability to convert an entire civilization into a war machine in less than 3 days. Lieutenant Jiwon Ko was working in the materials science lab when she made the discovery that would change everything. While analyzing samples of alien hull material recovered from the crash site, she found that it had a specific resonance frequency that could be exploited. If humans could generate the right electromagnetic pulse, they could cause the alien hull materials to become unstable. "It gets better," she reported to Dr. Lee with excitement. "The resonance effect can be transmitted through their own power systems. If we can get even a small amount of the right frequency into their ships, it will spread through their entire electrical network." The discovery led to the development of what the engineering teams called feedback bombs, small devices that could be delivered by missile or hidden on debris that the aliens might salvage. Once activated, the devices would send the resonance frequency through any alien technology they touched, potentially disabling or destroying entire ships from within. As the deadline approached, the aliens sent additional messages demanding immediate surrender. Each message was more threatening than the last, describing in detail what would happen to human colonies if they continued to resist. But instead of fear, these threats only made humans angrier and more determined to fight. The final message from the Helix Dominion came 6 hours before the deadline. It was broadcast on all human frequencies with maximum power, ensuring that every settlement and ship would receive it clearly. "Final warning to the human species," the artificial voice announced. "You have demonstrated remarkable stubbornness for such a primitive race. Perhaps you do not understand the consequences of defying the Helix Dominion. We will now provide additional demonstration of our capabilities." What followed was a detailed description of how they planned to destroy Earth's moon as an example of their power. The aliens explained that this would cause massive tidal disruptions that would devastate the planet's surface, killing billions of humans while leaving the world intact for future use by more obedient species. "You have 6 hours to reconsider your position," the message concluded. The Helix Dominion fleet commanders were confused by the human response. In their long history of conquering primitive species, they had never encountered a civilization that responded to overwhelming force with such simple defiance. Most races begged for mercy or tried to negotiate better terms. Some fought desperately, but without coordination. None had ever sent such a brief, almost casual acknowledgement of their ultimatum. Fleet Commander Vexi Hai reviewed the transmission logs for the 3rd time that day. The human message contained no emotional appeals, no desperate bargaining, no signs of the fear that should have paralyzed such a weak species. Just 4 words that seemed to indicate they were planning some kind of response to the most powerful military force in this region of the galaxy. "Perhaps they do not understand what we are capable of," suggested Sub-Commander Kolvith. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. They may think their primitive weapons can actually harm our ships." Vex High was not so sure. The intelligence reports showed that humans had spread across dozens of star systems in a very short time, suggesting they were not as primitive as their technology indicated. Still, the fleet was more than capable of destroying every human settlement in the galaxy if necessary. What the aliens did not know was that humanity had spent every moment of the past 72 hours preparing for exactly this confrontation. The response they were about to receive would demonstrate why humans had survived and thrived on a planet where almost everything was trying to kill them for millions of years. Dr. Sun-Ho Kang stood in the Quantum Communications Center deep beneath the surface of Europa, watching as his team made final adjustments to the most ambitious project in human history. They had discovered that quantum entanglement could be used to create instantaneous communication across any distance, but the power requirements were enormous. It had taken the combined energy output of 3 fusion reactors to create a stable network connecting every human settlement in space. "All stations are reporting ready," announced technician Boa Shin. "We have confirmed quantum links with 43 colonies, 18 mining operations, 12 research stations, and every major fleet in human space." For the first time in galactic history, a species could coordinate military actions across multiple star systems with no communication delay. The aliens still used faster-than-light messages that took hours or days to cross between distant systems. Humans could now execute simultaneous attacks across hundreds of light-years of space with perfect timing. Captain Yuna Han made final checks on her modified cargo ship as the alien fleet approached the outer edge of the solar system. Her vessel and 15 others like it were broadcasting emergency signals and moving toward Earth in what appeared to be a panicked evacuation. The ships were loaded with what the aliens would detect as civilian refugees and emergency supplies. "Remember," she told her small crew over the internal communication system, "we need to look desperate but not suspicious. Keep broadcasting distress calls and maintain erratic flight patterns like we are overloaded and barely functional." What the aliens could not detect was that each refugee ship contained enough military-grade explosives to destroy a small moon. The crews were volunteers who understood they were probably not going to survive the mission, but every one of them had friends or family who died in the alien attacks. They were ready to make the aliens pay for their crimes. Lieutenant Mina Choi had spent the past 3 days studying alien fleet movements from her hidden position in the asteroid fields. The enemy ships followed predictable patterns and seemed to assume that humans had no capability for long-range detection or coordinated response. They were about to learn how wrong that assumption was. "Alien fleet is maintaining standard formation," she reported through the quantum communication network. "Primary command ship is in the center, surrounded by 6 battle cruisers and 12 escort vessels. They are approaching the refugee convoy at steady acceleration and should intercept in approximately 4 hours. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee reviewed the IE final attack plans from his position in the war room beneath the surface of Earth. Every piece of intelligence had been analyzed, every weakness in alien technology had been identified, and every human asset had been positioned for maximum effect. The aliens thought they were about to destroy a fleeing refugee convoy. Instead, they were walking into the most carefully planned ambush in human history. "Phase 1 teams report ready," announced Coordinator Minji Park. "All kinetic weapon platforms are charged and targeted. Feedback bomb deployment systems are armed and ready. Fighter squadrons are standing by at pre-positioned locations." The beautiful thing about the plan was its simplicity. While the aliens focused on the obvious refugee ships, human forces would attack from directions they would never expect. Modified asteroid mining equipment would launch projectiles at near-light speed from positions throughout the solar system. Small fighter craft would emerge from hiding places among the moons and asteroids. Most importantly, the feedback bombs would be delivered by tiny drones that were too small for alien sensors to detect until it was too late. Commander Taewon Yu was coordinating with resistance groups on the colonies that had been attacked. The survivors had spent the past 3 days preparing surprises for any alien forces that returned to their worlds. What looked like abandoned ruins were actually carefully prepared kill zones filled with improvised weapons and hidden fighters. "The aliens still have garrison forces at 3 of the attack sites," reported resistance leader Dory Kim. "They seem to be studying the destruction and collecting samples of human technology. They have no idea that we are watching them from underground bunkers and preparing to strike." The garrison forces were small, probably scientific teams rather than military units, but they would serve as perfect targets to demonstrate that humans could strike back at alien forces anywhere in their territory. The resistance fighters had spent days tunneling beneath the alien positions and planting explosives that would turn their research camps into craters. Dr. Jiwon Ko made final adjustments to the feedback bomb systems from her laboratory on Mars. The weapons were elegantly simple. Small electromagnetic pulse generators that would attach to alien hulls and transmit the resonance frequency that destabilized their construction materials. Once activated, the effect would spread through the enemy ship's power systems like a virus, causing catastrophic structural failure. The beauty of this approach, she explained to the engineering teams, is that their own technology becomes the weapon. The more advanced their systems are, the faster the feedback effect will spread through their ships. The feedback bombs were loaded onto small delivery drones that could accelerate to incredible speeds using miniaturized versions of the same magnetic launch systems that powered the kinetic weapons. The drones were designed to impact alien hulls with enough force to penetrate their outer armor before activating the pulse generators. As the deadline approached, Admiral Suman Park stood in the command center watching tactical displays that showed the positions of every human asset in the solar system. Red dots marked the approaching alien fleet, while blue symbols indicated the hundreds of weapons platforms, fighter squadrons, and hidden installations that were preparing to reveal themselves. "All units report ready for Phase 1, announced Captain Ji-Ho Kim. "Kinetic weapons are targeted and charged. Fighter squadrons are in position. Feedback bomb delivery systems are armed and ready." Admiral Park looked around the command center at the faces of the men and women who would execute humanity's response to alien aggression. There was no fear in their expressions, only focused determination. These people had spent their entire lives exploring space and building new worlds among the stars. The aliens had made the mistake of threatening everything they had worked to create. "The alien fleet will intercept our refugee convoy in approximately 1 hour," reported Lieutenant Mina Choi. "They are maintaining formation and appear confident that this will be a simple massacre of fleeing civilians." What the aliens did not understand was that humans had learned important lessons from studying their own history. When faced with superior force, the key was not to fight according to the enemy's rules. The key was to change the rules of the game entirely. The Helix Dominion expected to face desperate resistance from primitive ships using inferior weapons. Instead, they were about to encounter a coordinated attack that would demonstrate the difference between advanced technology and advanced thinking. Humans had taken alien science and combined it with human creativity to produce weapons and tactics that no alien species had ever conceived. Captain Yuna Han received the final countdown signal through her quantum communicator. In 60 minutes, the alien fleet would be close enough to begin their attack on the refugee convoy. In 60 minutes, humanity would show the Helix Dominion what happened when someone bombed human civilians and then demanded surrender. "All refugee ships acknowledge final countdown," she reported. "We are ready to begin Phase 1 on your command." Admiral Park looked at the master tactical display one last time. Every element was in position. Every weapon was charged and ready. Every human asset in the solar system was prepared to execute their part of the plan. The first indication that something was wrong came when the alien sensor operators detected massive energy spikes from multiple directions throughout the solar system. Fleet Commander Vexhai stared at the tactical display in confusion as dozens of new contacts appeared on the screen, all moving toward his fleet at impossible velocities. "What are those objects?" he demanded. "Our sensors show them accelerating at over 100 gravities. No known species has technology capable of such acceleration." Sub-Commander Colvith was frantically analyzing the sensor data. "Sir, they appear to be simple metal projectiles, but they are moving at significant fractions of light speed. At these velocities, even small objects would have enormous kinetic energy." Vexhai felt the first stirring of genuine concern. The human refugee convoy was still fleeing toward Earth in apparent panic, but somehow the primitive species had launched a coordinated attack from positions throughout their solar system. The projectiles would reach his fleet in less than 10 minutes. "Raise shields and prepare evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Those projectiles may be fast, but they cannot maneuver. We should be able to avoid them." What he did not understand was that the kinetic weapons were only the first part of humanity's response. Captain Dongmin Seo was leading the real surprise, hidden among the refugee ships that the aliens were approaching with confident superiority. "Phase 2 in 30 seconds, Captain Seo announced to his crew. "Remember, we need to get close enough for the feedback bombs to attach before we detonate." Make them think we are just panicking refugees until the last possible moment. His ship and 14 others like it were broadcasting distress signals and maintaining the appearance of overloaded civilian vessels fleeing in terror. The aliens were closing in for what they thought would be an easy slaughter of defenseless humans. They had no idea that each refugee ship was actually a guided missile with a crew of volunteers who had already said goodbye to their families. The kinetic bombardment reached the alien fleet first. Despite their attempts at evasive maneuvers, 3 of the projectiles found their targets. The impact of iron slugs moving at 10% of light speed was devastating. 2 alien escort ships simply disappeared in flashes of plasma as their hulls were vaporized by the kinetic energy. A 3rd ship lost its rear section and began spinning out of control, venting atmosphere and debris. Impossible, Vexhai muttered, as he watched his ships being destroyed by simple chunks of metal. How did a primitive species develop such weapons? The answer was that humans had not developed new weapons at all. They had simply taken existing mining equipment and used it in ways that alien military thinking could not anticipate. Every asteroid processing facility in human space had become a magnetic launch system capable of accelerating massive projectiles to near-light speed. The aliens had advanced energy shields that could stop plasma weapons and particle beams, but they offered no protection against solid matter moving at relativistic velocities. Lieutenant Mina Choi watched the alien fleet's confusion from her hidden observation post. "They are trying to regroup and identify the source of the kinetic attacks," she reported through the quantum communication network. "Their formation is breaking apart as they attempt evasive maneuvers." This was exactly what the human battle plan had anticipated. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee had studied alien tactics and predicted they would respond to the kinetic bombardment by dispersing their forces and trying to locate the launch platforms. This would make them vulnerable to the second phase of the attack. Captain Yuna Han received the signal to begin Phase 2 as the alien fleet approached within weapons range of the refugee convoy. "All ships, prepare for revelation," she announced. "Show them what human refugees really look like." Fact 15. Refugee ships suddenly stopped broadcasting distress signals and began accelerating directly toward the alien vessels. At the same time, hidden panels opened on their hulls to reveal military-grade targeting systems and weapon hardpoints. What had appeared to be desperate civilians fleeing in panic were actually precision-guided weapons with volunteer crews ready to die for their species. The aliens realized too late that they had been deceived. The refugee ships were moving too fast and were too close for the alien plasma weapons to target effectively. Worse, each ship was broadcasting new signals that jammed alien sensors and communication systems, making coordinated defense impossible. Captain Dongmin Seo felt a grim satisfaction as his ship closed the final distance to the alien command vessel. "Feedback bombs deployed," announced his weapons officer. "Impact in 15 seconds. The small electromagnetic devices attached themselves to the alien hull with magnetic clamps and immediately began transmitting the resonance frequency that destabilized alien construction materials. Within seconds, the effect began spreading through the command ship's power systems like an electronic virus. "What is happening to our hull?" demanded one of the alien officers as his ship began to shake violently. "The structural integrity is failing throughout the entire vessel." Vexhai watched in horror as his flagship began to tear itself apart from within. The resonance effect was spreading through every system connected to the ship's power grid, causing catastrophic failures in life support, weapons, and propulsion. Similar effects were visible on other ships throughout his fleet as the feedback bombs did their work. "All ships, emergency evacuation," he ordered. But it was too late. Captain Seo's refugee ship detonated in a massive explosion that engulfed 3 alien vessels. The other human ships followed within seconds, each taking enemy vessels with them in brilliant flashes of atomic fire. Dr. Jiwon Ko monitored the feedback bomb effectiveness from her laboratory on Mars. "Resonance cascade is propagating through alien power systems exactly as predicted," she reported. "Their own advanced technology is becoming the primary weapon against them." The alien ships that survived the refugee ship detonations were crippled by the electromagnetic attacks. Their hulls were developing stress fractures that spread like spider webs across their surfaces. Power systems were failing randomly as the resonance frequency disrupted their electronic components. What had been a confident fleet approaching helpless refugees was now a collection of damaged ships, struggling to maintain basic functions. But the aliens' problems were just beginning. Phase 3 of the human attack was about to commence, and it would demonstrate that humans had learned to think about warfare in ways that no alien species had ever imagined. Commander Taewon Yu coordinated the signal from the resistance fighters on the attacked colonies. "All resistance teams report ready," he announced. "Alien garrison forces are in position over the target zones." On 3 different worlds, the alien research teams that had been studying human ruins were about to discover that those ruins were not as abandoned as they appeared. Human survivors had spent the past 3 days tunneling beneath the alien positions and placing explosives that would demonstrate why humans had dominated their homeworld despite being smaller and weaker than most of the other predators. The underground explosions happened simultaneously across 3 star systems, coordinated through the quantum communication network that allowed instantaneous coordination across galactic distances. Alien research camps simply disappeared as carefully placed charges turned the ground beneath them into massive craters. The few survivors found themselves surrounded by human fighters who emerged from hidden bunkers with weapons salvaged from the initial attacks. "Resistance phase successful," reported fighter leader Duri Kim. "Alien garrison forces eliminated. We are now in possession of intact alien technology and several prisoners for intelligence gathering." But the most devastating part of the human response was yet to come. Dr. Sunho Kang had discovered something during his analysis of alien communication intercepts that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "I have successfully cracked their command frequency," he announced to the War Council. "We can now intercept and decode all alien military communications in real time." What Dr. Kang had learned was that the Helix Dominion was not the overwhelming force they pretended to be. They were actually a loose coalition of different alien species held together by mutual fear and the threat of their advanced weapons. More importantly, many of the member species were beginning to question whether attacking humans had been a wise decision. The intercepted communications revealed panic among the alien leadership. They had expected to face a primitive species that would surrender quickly when confronted with superior force. Instead, they were dealing with humans who had turned their entire civilization into a weapon and were fighting with a coordination and creativity that alien military doctrine could not counter. "Emergency session of the Coalition Council," read one intercepted message. "Human resistance is beyond all projected parameters. Request immediate reinforcement of all fleet elements. Possible evacuation of forward positions may be necessary." Admiral Sumin Park smiled as she read the intelligence reports. The aliens were discovering what humans had learned during millions of years of evolution on a planet where everything was trying to kill them. When faced with extinction, humans did not panic or surrender. They adapted, they learned, and they found ways to turn their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. The emergency session of the Helix Dominion Council convened in a state of panic that had not been seen in over 2,000 years of galactic conquest. Representative after representative from different alien species reported the same impossible news. An entire fleet had been destroyed by a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. Council leader Zarmoth reviewed the final transmission from Fleet Commander Vexhai with growing disbelief. "They weaponized their star?" he asked the assembled representatives. "How is such a thing possible? No species in galactic history has ever demonstrated the ability to harness stellar energy as a weapon." Military advisor Kethvor brought up the tactical analysis on the main display. "Our experts have studied the attack patterns and confirmed the reports. The humans used kinetic weapons launched from mining equipment, electromagnetic pulse devices that exploited weaknesses in our hull materials, suicide attacks disguised as refugee evacuations, and finally directed stellar energy to destroy our remaining forces." What terrified the alien leadership most was not just the effectiveness of the human weapons, but the coordination and creativity behind the attacks. The humans had analyzed alien weaknesses, developed countermeasures, and executed a battle plan that used their entire star system as a weapons platform. "How long did they have to prepare these defenses?" asked Representative Veltara. 72 hours, Kethvor replied quietly. "From the time we delivered our ultimatum to the time they destroyed our fleet was exactly 72 hours. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species they had dismissed as primitive had converted their entire civilization into a coordinated military force in 3 days. More disturbing was the realization that this was probably not the limit of human capabilities, but merely what they could accomplish with minimal preparation. Admiral Kyung Park stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Earth ship Retribution, reading the intercepted alien communications with grim satisfaction. Kyung was Admiral Sumin Park's daughter and had been given command of the first human vessel designed specifically for offensive operations outside the solar system. "The aliens are scared," reported Communications Officer Hana Lee. "Intelligence intercepts show they are recalling forces from forward positions and calling for emergency military mobilization. Some of the coalition members are questioning whether they should continue the war against us." This was exactly what the human leadership had hoped to achieve. The destruction of the alien fleet had demonstrated that humans were not the helpless prey that the Helix Dominion had expected. More importantly, it had shown the alien coalition that their supposed technological superiority was not absolute. Dr. Hyunwoo Lee had spent the past week analyzing captured alien technology and developing new weapons based on the principles they had discovered. The feedback bombs had been just the beginning. Human engineers were now creating devices that could turn any piece of alien technology into a weapon against its users. "The beautiful thing about their advanced systems," Dr. Lee explained to the Military Council, "is that they are so interconnected that a failure in one area spreads throughout the entire network. We can essentially hack their ships and turn their own computers against them." Tactician Seung Lim had been working with teams of strategists to develop what they called Operation Starfall, a plan that would demonstrate to the entire galaxy that humanity was not interested in simply defending themselves. If the aliens wanted to escalate the conflict, humans would show them what real escalation looked like. "Every asteroid belt in human space has been converted into a kinetic weapons platform," Seung reported. "We can now launch coordinated attacks on targets throughout this region of the galaxy. The aliens think they are dealing with a defensive species that will hide behind their own star. They are about to learn that humans prefer offensive operations." The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack again, humanity would strike first at the heart of Helix Dominion territory. Using the captured alien technology to navigate faster-than-light travel, human forces would appear in alien star systems and demonstrate what a real orbital bombardment looked like. Captain Rena Bay had volunteered to lead the first deep strike mission into alien territory. Her ship was equipped with the latest human weapons technology, including improved feedback bombs, kinetic projectiles, and a miniaturized version of the stellar focusing system that had destroyed the alien fleet. "Our target is the alien military production facility in the Kepler 438 system," she briefed her crew. "Intelligence indicates this is where they manufacture their plasma weapons and ship components. If we can destroy their ability to produce new weapons, we can cripple their entire war effort." But the most important part of the mission was not military destruction. It was sending a message. Humans wanted the galaxy to understand that bombing their civilians had consequences that extended far beyond simple retaliation. The human strike force that emerged from faster-than-light travel in the alien system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of traditional warships, the humans had converted asteroid mining equipment into mobile weapons platforms that could accelerate chunks of rock to devastating velocities. "Unknown vessels detected in outer system," reported the alien sensor operator at the military facility. "Ship configuration does not match any known design in our database." What the aliens saw were human mining ships that appeared to be simple, industrial vessels. What they did not detect were the magnetic launch systems that could fire projectiles across interplanetary distances with perfect accuracy, or the stealth drones that were already moving toward their installations. Captain Rena Bay watched the alien facility through her ship's sensors as her crews prepared their weapons. The production complex was massive, spanning multiple asteroids and artificial habitats where millions of alien workers manufactured the weapons that had been used to bomb human colonies. "Remember," she told her crew, "we are not here to commit genocide. Our target is military infrastructure only. But we are going to make sure they understand the cost of threatening human civilians." The attack began with a demonstration that showed the aliens exactly how outmatched they were. Instead of immediately destroying the facility, the human ships used pinpoint kinetic strikes to disable specific systems, power generators, communication arrays, and defensive weapons, while leaving the habitat areas intact. "This is a warning," Captain Bay broadcast on all alien frequencies. "You bombed 3 of our colonies and killed 50,000 civilians. We could destroy this entire facility and everyone in it, but we are not like you. Instead, we are going to show you what happens when you threaten humanity." What followed was a systematic dismantling of alien military capability that demonstrated the difference between advanced technology and advanced thinking. Human forces did not simply blow up the alien facility, they captured it, studied every piece of technology inside it, and then used that knowledge to create even more effective weapons. Dr. Jiwon Ko was part of the technical team that boarded the alien facility after it was secured. What they found exceeded their most optimistic expectations. The aliens had been developing weapons specifically designed to exterminate human colonies, including biological agents that would have made their worlds uninhabitable. They were planning complete genocide, she reported to Earth. The plasma weapons were just the beginning. They have research files showing plans to sterilize every human world and use our systems for their own expansion. This discovery changed the nature of humanity's response. What had begun as retaliation for an unprovoked attack was now revealed to be a defensive war against an enemy that planned total extermination. The gloves were coming off. Admiral Sumin Park received the intelligence reports and immediately authorized the next phase of human operations. "If they want to play extinction games," she told the War Council, "then we will show them what extinction looks like when humans get serious about it." Operation Prometheus was the culmination of everything humans had learned about warfare since the first alien attacks. Using the stellar focusing technology that had destroyed the alien fleet, human engineers had created a network of energy weapons that could target any star system within 50 light-years of Earth. The demonstration came without warning. The aliens woke up one morning to discover that their home star was being bombarded by focused energy from the human solar system. The stellar manipulation did not damage the star itself, but it created massive solar flares that disrupted every electronic system in the alien home system. "This is Admiral Sumin Park of the Earth Defense Force," she broadcast to the paralyzed alien worlds. "You bombed our colonies and threatened our extinction. You have now seen what happens when humans decide to take warfare seriously. We can target any star system in this region of the galaxy, and we can do it from the safety of our own solar system." The ultimatum that followed was delivered with the same cold precision that the aliens had used when threatening humanity. "You have 72 hours to withdraw all forces from human space and provide full reparations for the colonies you destroyed."